greater than the benefits, which may well be illusory in nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. On behalf of Ron Long.
A little bit louder, miss, if you could.
I'm here on behalf of Ron Long, vendor in the Business Enterprise Program, who runs the East End Sports Grill.
And do you want to tell us your name, please?
I'm Candace Adams.
Thank you.
Since SB 441 was implemented, we've lost 25% of our vending sales. My market research shows that we could lose up to 50% of sales if AB 727 passes. This bill is detrimental to the BEP because it has the potential to put half of the vendors out of business. This translates to millions of dollars in losses, which translates to lost taxes and loss of employment for their employees, people like me. DOR will incur costs to implement and oversee. We're already at 35% of healthy food and beverages, and we honor customer requests. Since we already have healthy food available, the focus needs to shift to education and encouragement. Studies show that these need to be an integral part of any health food promotion or diet. People who are educated and concerned for their health make healthier choices. Education is the key, not legislation that limits business. It is my personal experience, backed up with data, that the current 35% offering of healthy food is enough, and pushing that to 50% would cause a great burden to many business people. I respectfully urge your no vote.
Thank you very much.
Madam
Next,
Chair,
please.
members, Ralph Simone representing the Grocery Manufacturers Association. We likewise oppose the bill. There's a lack of empirical data to justify expanding this from the current 35% to 50%, and until that's available, we continue to oppose.
Thank you. Next, please. Are you testifying, sir?
Yes.
Alrighty.
I'm Andy Brown, and I represent the California Vendor Policy Committee. Most of everything that I was going to testify about has already been covered. So I think that I'm just going to say on behalf of the California Vendor Policy Committee, we strongly urge a no vote on this policy.
Thank you for your brevity. Appreciate that. Any other testimony opposed to the bill? Any other testimony? Seeing none, then Finance, do you have a comment?
We have identified costs, Madam Chair, and we're opposed to the bill.
You're opposed? Members, this is a candidate for suspense. If there's no objection, then Senator Price.
Yeah, no objection, but just want to applaud the author on the efforts. I think these two bills, somewhat companion bills, both address critical needs. Certainly the first one, I think, is an opportunity for the state to benefit without direct cash outlay. And the second one, I think, is just good public policy. And although they are both candidates for suspense, I'd like to be added as a co-author when they come off.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
All righty. Thank you, Senator Price. No objection to it moving to suspense. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. We'll work with you in the meantime.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All righty. Mr. Hernandez, come on up. Two items, AB 372, California Community Colleges, candidate for suspense. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senators. First off, I hope you're enjoying your dinner tonight, and I'll try to be swift here.
It's been hours since I've had a tuna sandwich.
Enjoy it, please.
Go ahead.
You deserve it. I present to you AB 372, which would ensure the success of our returning veterans by breaking down some of the barriers to pursuing a college degree by allowing them to receive a prior learning assessment as part of the California Community College's matriculation process. California has a vast population of veterans, totaling roughly 2.2 million as of 2010. So, statistics show that an overwhelming percentage of these veterans will attend a community college, which tells us that this is precisely where we need this prior learning assessment to be made available. As you know, the economic recession is driving veterans and other student populations to this particular segment of higher learning, to this point where many students are being turned away at admissions. The analysis cites first-year implementation costs to be in the millions of dollars and ongoing costs at $25,000 annually. I would argue that this bill would result in a significant cost savings for the state and taxpayers without this bill. Veterans returning from service with highly specialized skill sets in IT, medical training, and engineering, among other things, would have to, in essence, start over. There is 2.2 million veterans in California. Hypothetically, if just 250,000 veterans were to transfer their training to get course credit for just 2 classes, then it would save the state around $549 million. That's based on the state subsidy amount. Additionally, taxpayers in the state would have to pay for accommodating them in addition to the many students flooding this segment of higher education system.
Thank you. Let's go to your witnesses.
Okay. At this time, Staff Sergeant Reed Milburn, United States Air Force veteran.
Thank you, sir. Madam Chair, members, I know it's been a long day. Welcome back from your vacation. I'm one of those veterans that had to start over. I received extensive training in air traffic control radar systems, electrical engineering, and when I came back to our fantastic community college system, unfortunately, I was told I had to start over, that none of those credits counted for anything. In a time when we're looking at efficiencies and we're turning away students and we need to get people back into the workforce, we need to look at efficiencies like AB 372. This not only serves our veterans, but it gets veterans trained back out into the workforce, recognizing the training that they went through while they were serving our country. I thank you for your support for this legislation.
Thank you. Next, please.
Kim Lewis with my last hat for today, representing the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning. We think prior learning assessments are a really critical piece to the community college system that's missing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Are you testifying? No. Can we have that seat, please? Thanks.
Madam Chair and committee members, Bonnie Slauson on behalf of the California Community College Trustees, the association that represents all your local community college governing board members, and I'm here to express support for this measure. Thank you.
Next, please.
Dana Nickel, P. Conantine Associates, representing AMVETS, American Legion, California Association of County Veteran Service Officers, California State Commanders Veterans Council, and the Vietnam Veterans of America, all in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. That is testimony in favor. Is there any opposition testimony? Opposition? Seeing none. Finance, do you have a statement?
Madam Chair, we've identified cost pressures of up to $6 million. We're opposed to the bill.
All righty. Members, this is a suspense candidate. Senator Liu.
Thank you for bringing this bill. I think it's a good bill. I'd like to be added as a co-author.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'd be honored.
Any other comments, members? Then we'll move it to the suspense file, and we'll work with you on those costs, and then we'll take up 1382.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Okay, today I present to you AB 1382, a bill sponsored by the California Department of Public Health and a suspense file candidate. Assembly Bill 1382 addresses the staggering HIV and hepatitis C virus co-infection rates that exist in California by allowing trained Office of AIDS counselors to administer rapid hepatitis C tests. Let's just move forward with the witnesses and move this process efficiently.
Good evening, Madam Chair. I'm Rachel McLean with the California Department of Public Health, which is the sponsor of this bill. AB 1382 would allow HIV test counselors to perform FDA-approved rapid hepatitis C tests using the same technology they use now for rapid HIV tests. The department believes this is a good public health measure because it would reduce the problem of clients failing to return for their hepatitis C test results. It would also increase the number of persons gaining access to appropriate hepatitis C early detection, care, and treatment, reducing their likelihood of experiencing complications such as advanced liver disease. And finally, it would allow the state to purchase less expensive hepatitis C test kits in place of the more expensive kits that are currently used.
Very good. Next, please.
Good afternoon. For two clients, the Drug Policy Alliance in support and the California Hepatitis Alliance in support. My name is Glenn Backus.
Thank you. Next. All right. Any more testimony?
Kathy Mossberg, representing the San Francisco AIDS Foundation.
Could you exit so other people can sit down?
In support.
Thank you.
Donna Seitz, representing the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, in support.
Thank you. Any other testimony in favor? Any opposition? Finance.
We're in support of the bill.
This looks like a good bill. We do want to look at some of these costs. So unless there's objections, we'll move it to suspense and deal with it while it's there. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
All right, Ms. Skinner. Two items, AB 375, workers' comp, and then AB 1025, pilots in harbors and ports.
Right. Thank you so much.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So I waived presentation on the others. And Assembly Bill 375 is a bill to create equity for people that provide direct patient service at hospitals by establishing a disputable presumption under the workers' comp for those hospital workers if they develop a blood-borne infectious disease or a MRSA staph infection. Police and firefighters who contract these type of diseases and a whole host of other ailments and injuries have now disputable presumption under our workers' comp. So they do not have to prove that they contracted it on the job. However, hospital employees that provide direct patient care, like nurses, are excluded from that same presumption. But they are exposed on a daily basis to these type of injuries. To address fiscal concerns, I amended the bill and limited the bill to hospital workers who provide direct patient care in acute care hospitals. I also eliminated the neck and back injury aspect, so it only covers bloodborne diseases and MRSA infections. And I have a representative from CNA, Deanne Furman.
Good, we'll go to your witnesses.
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Deanna Furman on behalf of the California Nurses Association. Healthcare workers, by the nature of their work, are in constant danger of exposure to infectious diseases and injuries. We believe that this narrow scope of this bill is the perfect way to protect these nurses and other healthcare workers who perform direct patient care. And we also believe that this is correct, considering the same patients that are being handled by police and firefighters are often winding up in the emergency room and other areas of the acute care hospital. We urge your support.
Very good. Next.
Sarah Flox, on behalf of the California Labor Federation. We are also in support of this bill. We feel like creating a disputable presumption for workers' comp for hospital workers who are on the front line, who are in contact with staph infections and with bloodborne pathogens, not only will help their health, but it will reduce friction in the workers' comp system. So hospital workers can focus on healing and getting back to work rather than fighting with an insurance company and trying to figure out their claims. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Madam Chair, members, Christy Baumer representing the California Professional Firefighters. It's been in our experience, particularly with the MRSA infection, that the quicker it's diagnosed and treated, the lower the risk of them spreading the disease to their colleagues and creating more costs in the system. We think it's a reasonable presumption for healthcare workers. We ask for your support.
Thank you. Other testimony in favor? In favor? Opposition, please. Opposition, come on up. You're in favor, ma'am?
Yes.
I saw it in
Carolyn
your
Stapleton
eyes.
for California National Organization for Women. We are in support of this bill.
Thank you very much. All right, now we're moving to opposition testimony. Have a seat, folks.
Thank you. This is Gail Blanchard-Sager on behalf of the California Hospital Association.
Can you pull that in a little closer, or could we have a little more volume? Go ahead.
Okay. I will just focus on the fiscal aspects. The challenge with the fiscal aspects of this bill is quantifying the costs attributable to claims that would not have been filed or would have been legitimately denied without the presumption. However, given that the burden of proof on the employer is so high, it's likely that there's going to be some additional claims filed. Even one additional bloodborne claim can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking about hepatitis C or HIV. For hepatitis C, the medical costs alone can exceed $500,000. And for self-insured hospitals, the hospital has to reserve for the kind of the worst case scenario. So those reserves can exceed $1 million, and that money must be put aside and cannot be used for any other purpose. While the cost for treating MRSA infection is not as costly, there are costs. It can range from a few $100s to a few $1,000s per claim, and these don't include the temporary or permanent disability costs that would also be required. The Center for Disease Control also acknowledges that hospital-acquired infection in patients is decreasing. Healthcare workers are at no greater risk for a MRSA infection than anybody in the community, and the community-acquired infection is actually on the rise. So we're going to see an increase in MRSA claims that likely have no relationship to work, but with this presumption would fall under workers' comp. Another cost driver is related to potential increased litigation. Many healthcare workers work for more than one employer, and so with this presumption, the employers are going to be, the hospital employers are likely going to be litigating who's responsible for the claim, because again, a bloodborne claim can be close to $1 million. This will tax an already taxed Workers' Compensation Appeals Board and will drive up workers' comp costs as well. Finally, most hospitals self-insure for workers' compensation, and even those that insure for workers' comp often have very high deductibles, so these costs directly impact the hospital costs, which will in turn put pressure on healthcare costs. For public hospitals, this has a direct impact on state costs, but the increased cost to private hospitals will also have an impact on state costs through the medical health program and the healthcare costs increase in general.
Karen French, representing University of California and our 5 academic medical centers. We're in opposition to AB 375. We are self-funded for workers' compensation and will need to put these reserves aside. So hospital revenues that would otherwise be available for patient care or for medical education would be set aside. We cannot tell you how many additional claims would be filed under this bill. We can tell you that we've gone back and looked at infectious diseases and claims, and over the last 4 years, 97% of those claims have been approved by UC and paid out. 97%
have been approved. How much is in the reserve now?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
And tell
I
me
can't tell you
and how much it would increase if the bill were to pass.
The issue for us is it depends upon how many claims that we would consider perhaps questionable. In other words, someone may have a pre-existing Hep C or HIV diagnosis. We wouldn't know that because of medical privacy. We couldn't, employer can't do testing to find that out. But if that diagnosis is made to an employee, they could assert that it was connected to their work, and we would be virtually precluded from being able to rebut the presumption.
Alrighty. But as far as that reserve goes, don't you have to make a projection to establish the reserve on a budget annual basis?
What you have to do is, on the basis of a claim, when the claim is made, you have to do an actuarial projection of that person's lifetime and the worst case scenario. So, for instance, if it's Hep C, you have to presume a liver transplant, and you have to set aside, under those circumstances, that it would be a lifetime permanent disability.
All righty, next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senators, Julianne Broyles here on behalf of the California Association of Joint Powers Authorities. Certainly agree with the points brought up by the Hospital Association, the UC system. AB 375 is one that we do have a lot of concern of. Joint powers authorities are used to form the mechanism where cities, counties, and others self-insure for workers' compensation purposes. In this case, we've got 14 county hospitals and 46 hospital districts that would be affected by this bill in our own membership, and that's why it's a bill of concern to us. In terms to answer your question on the reserving, they really are million and multi-million dollar claims when you have bloodborne pathogens. So if you're reserving, you're going to reserve that for those claims that are currently contested now. You're going to have to set it out and have those reserves set aside. When those reserves are set aside, they are not available for other uses. We do think that it's a very expensive mandate that's being considered here, and that it's going to cost us a lot at a time when we're already going through budget cuts, staff layoffs, and program cuts that we already have at the state, at the local level. I ask you to reconsider and hold this bill in committee.
Alrighty. Next, please. Other testimony in favor? Or opposed? Opposed.
I have a question.
Senator Liu.
I have a question for one of the witnesses.
Then we'll bring him back. Which witness?
A question for the UC witness.
Ms. French? Not so fast. Senator Liu wants to grill you.
No, I just want to say in testimony, I think I heard you said about 97% of claims UC approves under the current system.
Right.
All right, so that's without a presumption. So even with a presumption, I don't understand why it would be such a big hit if you're already doing 97% approval for these cases.
What we believe may happen is that there's an incentive to submit a questionable claim. In other words, the cases that we get, there may be a dirty stick, there's a protocol that's followed, and it goes through the workers' comp system. There could be an instance where someone is diagnosed with a disease, and there's a presumption that it is work-related, and so it's up to the employer to show that it was not work-related. In the case of a pre-existing condition, we wouldn't necessarily be able to rebut that presumption.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Jason Schmelzer with CSAC Excess Insurance Authority and the California Coalition on Workers' Compensation, opposed to the bill.
Thomas Vu with the California Chamber of Commerce, also in opposition.
All right, next.
Iris Herrera with the California Special Districts Association in opposition.
Steve Kelmer on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Los Angeles County in opposition.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that's opposition. Finance?
We're also opposed to the bill.
All righty.
Senator Kehoe?
Senator Alquist.
I carried the legislation on MRSA, dealing with that in hospitals. I would love to be a principal co-author on this bill. And I mean, when you really look at it, there are numerous cases where people go into hospitals, for something minor, and they die from these bloodborne infections. And there certainly is a nexus between people who work in hospitals with getting this kind of infection if the hospital does not follow the procedures. Many hospitals do follow the procedures, but certainly when people are still dying or are severely disabled from these infections and they work in hospitals, having this rebuttable presumption is certainly very worthwhile.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Alquist. Any other comments, members? The item goes to suspense. We're going to take up AB 1025. This is the harbor pilots. This is a action item, members. I'll be looking for a due pass motion. Go ahead, Ms. Skinner.
Thank you.
Mr. Senator Emerson, after careful consideration, moves the bill. Go ahead, Ms. Skinner. And
the bill just
got a motion.
Bill just cleans up existing statute and provides some technical changes to make the Board of Pilot Commissioners more efficient. And we'll take that motion and act on it.
As amended, because there's a technical amendment on page 2. Career executive assignment. Go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, members, Paul DiEro on behalf of the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association in support.
Any other testimony for or against? Finance, do you have a?
We're neutral.
All righty. We have a motion from Mr. Emerson. Any other comments, members? We'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Walters, aye. Alquist?
Aye.
Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, aye. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg.
And that is 7-0. The bill is out. Thank you, Ms. Skinner. Mr. Fong, you have 3 items. AB 1056 is first on community colleges. Go ahead when you're ready.
I'm going to waive presentation.
We're going in file item order, young man. If that's okay with you.
Y'all been here a long time. I'm going to waive presentation on 1056.
Thank you. Then we'll take up 1116.
Okay, great.
That's a due pass, members.
Okay. Good morning, Madam Chair and Senators.
It's afternoon now.
Oh, thank you. Second time I've been here. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Senators. I apologize for the mistake. AB 1116 will require the California Emergency Management Agency, CalEMA, to consider the safety needs of limited English-speaking communities during any disaster. It will require the director to collaborate with local ethnic community-based organizations and ethnic media outlets to disseminate disaster preparedness information. Coordinating communication will go a long way in saving lives and minimizing injuries and diminishing damages for Californians. The cost should be minimal because we're asking CalEMA to work within their resources. This bill has received bipartisan support from the Senate Government Organization Committee. I respectfully request an aye
Thank
vote.
you. We'll go to your witnesses.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Santosh Siram Santana, and with Asian Americans for Civil Rights and Equality, and we are in strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Jeanette Sanipatin, Legislative Staff Attorney with the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational
Thank
Fund,
you.
also in strong support.
Thank you.
Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California Chapter, in support.
Thank you. Other testimony in favor? Any opposition testimony? Any opposition testimony? All right, Finance?
We are opposed to the bill because we don't believe it's necessary.
All right. And this is 1056. No, this is
1116.
1116. I need a motion. Senator Alquist.
Question by the committee.
Did you already do that?
No.
All right.
No, I was going to ask the author. I thought this.
Please do. Senator Emerson has a question.
I thought this was already being done, and I think Finance is confirming that by saying they feel this is unnecessary. Why the bill?
Well, it isn't being done. The Dimely Bilingual Act, they did an audit on it, I think, last year. Was it the Dimely? It was in 2009. Did an audit, and they're not doing it. They're not providing bilingual services.
We're going to hear from the author, folks. If we have more questions for you, I'll call you up.
Okay. They're not doing it right now.
Mr. Emerson, you okay with that? Okay. All right. All right. So we have a motion by Senator Alquist. Any other questions? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Walters, no. Alquist?
Aye.
Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, no. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Pavley?
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
5-2. You have enough votes. That's Senator Steinberg. Okay, that bill is out.
Thank you.
Now you have AB 1167, Interagency Council on Homelessness, and this is a suspense candidate, members.
Yes. Madam Chair and Senators, California has the highest homeless population in the nation. On any given night, 360,000 men, women, families, veterans, and children are sleeping on our streets, in tents, or in temporary shelters. Furthermore, because of the economic crisis, the state has seen an increase in families with children living in our streets or in homeless shelters. Despite our large homeless population, California is one of the only large states that does not have an active interagency council on homelessness. AB 1167 will establish an interagency council on homelessness composed of public, private, and nonprofit representatives. A public-private partnership will provide an innovative perspective to address our state's homeless population. Many states and local governments, include local jurisdictions in California, have seen positive results by the establishment of similar types of councils. These cities and counties have adopted and implemented 10-year plans to end homelessness in their respective jurisdictions. Just last year, California adopted a 10-year plan to end homelessness. But we need to push harder for families, veterans, and youth that are sleeping on our streets. AB 1167 will allow California to have a coordinated response to end homelessness. This bill will provide a public and formal line of communication where information and ideas can be communicated between the numerous stakeholders involved with addressing the homeless situation in the state. This council will act as a lead in not only coordinating and planning the state's response to homelessness, but coordinate additional funding the state can receive from the federal government for the prevention and reduction of homelessness. Though each state agency does tremendous work in administering their respective programs regarding the homeless population, the state's current fragmented approach has not been successful in developing strategic plans to address this growing issue.
All righty. Let's go to your witnesses. Is that
okay? Thank you.
Zach Olmstead with Housing California. I think I'll be as brief as I can. We have a really fragmented approach right now. And so one, the Department of Mental Health does one thing, the Department of Corrections does another.
Right,
and we're failing
right.
on getting efficiencies from our limited resources. And what's most important to us as advocates is we're really probably losing out on lots of opportunities from the federal level. There are actually several pots of money that require interagency collaboration of this nature. I'll name two: the Second Chance Act funds. Another is McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Grants, where we could apply for balance of state funds. And with other applications, even if they're not explicitly required, since we're one of the few states that doesn't do this, we're at a disadvantage when it comes to national competitions for federal dollars. So we're leaving dollars on the table, and we're also doing so by failing to do anything, by not passing this bill, we're having huge costs of just maintaining homelessness in our state and our country at a local level, with as they use systems of criminal justice systems, our health systems, our shelter systems. So this bill, for a cost in the thousands potentially, could get us millions not only in savings but millions in revenue coming back. So it would seem like a valuable thing to pursue. We think that it's absorbable. There are already staff working in all these departments on homelessness. We think it actually would enhance their ability to do so if they have the expertise of one another working forward, not cause them more time. As they work together and get a forum to interact on a regular basis, it actually will reduce their workload. So for all those reasons, we think that this is a very smart way to move forward for our state. Thank you.
Very good. Next, please.
Randy Hicks, California's Disability Rights, and I've also been working on this issue, and I echo all the comments that he said, and we're in strong support.
Thanks, Mr. Hicks.
Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, also in support.
Thank you. Other testimony in favor? Come on up, folks. And then we'll take opposition if there is any. Come on up. Where's your companions? All right, I guess you're solo. Go ahead.
Yeah, C.T. Weber, Peace Freedom Party California State Chair, and we're also in strong support.
Thank you so much. Any opposition to the bill? Finance, do you have a comment?
We don't believe the costs are absorbable, and we're opposed to the bill.
You're opposed. All righty. Members, any comments? This is a candidate for suspense. If there's no objection, then we'll move it there. We'll work with you in the meantime, Mr. Fong. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Alejo, you're next, I think. One item. AB 409, dual language immersion. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Today I bring you Assembly Bill 409, a bill that streamlines how two-way bilingual immersion schools are allowed to measure academic performance. There are about 100 of these bilingual immersion schools in California, and unlike traditional schools, they help students become bilingual by teaching some material in English and the rest in another language, typically Spanish. As you know, No Child Left Behind requires that a school must use standardized testing every year to measure student performance. The way it's done now, a student could be tested in English even though he received instruction for that subject in Spanish. This makes it difficult for a school to compare the academic data and achievements across students, and worse, it makes it impossible to change the curriculum to help students succeed. AB 409 solves this problem by making it possible for a school to offer the standard-based test in Spanish, or STS, to all students regardless of their language classification. To control costs, a school would only be able to offer the test if it chooses to pay for it out of its existing budget. The Department of Finance has raised two concerns about the bill, which I wish to dispute. First, they assume that a $2 million cost to administer the test to 100% of its dual immersion students with a per-student cost of $39. However, their analysis fails to account for the fact that a significant number of these students already have permission under the law to take the test, so 100% adoption will not take place in any scenario. More importantly, the STS is less expensive option than the $52 Aprenda test, which it would replace. Second, the analysis claims that the bill will, quote, create pressure for the state to develop assessments in additional languages to meet the needs of dual immersion programs, end quote. But nothing in this bill supports the creation of a new test. Nonetheless, I have asked Legislative Council to draft an amendment to make clear that this bill only applies to existing tests. AB 409 does not add any cost or obligations to a school. It only takes away the barrier that keeps these two-way schools from offering the test they want to offer. This bill also, the origin of this bill came through one of our local charter schools in my district through There Ought to Be a Law contest. So I ask you for your favorable consideration when the suspense calendar is brought up.
We haven't seen those amendments yet, Mr. Alejo. If you could get them to the committee when you have them,
We will
it'd be
do that.
most helpful. Witnesses?
Dolores Sanchez, representing the California Federation of Teachers, important bill for English language learners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Martha Zaragoza, representing Californians Together and the California Association for Bilingual Education. And we also support the bill. We believe that the amendment that the Assembly member spoke to will address at least a large portion of the costs associated with this bill. This bill is needed in order to provide teachers in dual language classrooms to be able to provide them with data to inform them how their non-English learner student in the dual program is doing academically, how well they're doing academically. They need this information. So this is a critical bill in that respect. So we ask for your I support on
Thank
this.
you for your comments, ma'am. That's support. Any more support? Opposition. Is there any opposition? Finance?
We are opposed to the bill on the basis of costs.
Members, any comments or questions? This is a candidate for suspense, and we'll move it there. We'll work with you in the meantime, and don't forget those amendments, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All righty, Ms. Atkins, 4 items, starting with AB 499, medical care, minors' consent.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
499 improves access to medical care for our youth by allowing minors aged 12 and over to consent to preventative medical care against sexually transmitted diseases. Under current law, youth can consent to be diagnosed and treated confidentially only after they've been exposed to an STD. But now there are proven vaccines for human papillomavirus, hepatitis B, and HIV prophylactic medications to prevent contracting these diseases in the first place. So to get to the financial part of this, AB 499 recognizes that preventing diseases is always less costly than treating them in terms of both dollars and human life. The costs of the vaccines themselves can be recovered through the Federal Vaccines for Children program. This is what many healthcare practitioners already do. In addition, administering post-exposure HIV medications can reduce the risk of infection by up to 80%, preventing youth from contracting this lifelong and expensive disease to treat. Although it's not covered by Medi-Cal, counties like San Francisco have opted to cover this medical service. Ultimately, I believe AB 499 will result in significant cost savings to the state by helping youth to access protection against these lifelong but preventable diseases. I look forward to continuing discussions with the committee while this bill is on suspense.
Thank you. Let's go to your witnesses.
Shannon Smith Crowley, American Congress of OBGYNs. We're co-sponsors of this bill, and also American Association of University Women California in support of this. AB 499 would, by adding preventive services, would have us join states like Iowa and Kansas and South Carolina that already include preventive services for minors. I think there's the analysis was very good, but there's a number of places where I think we'll be able to work on suspense to show some reduction of costs. For instance, hepatitis B is almost always given as a newborn. It would just be a few people that there was catch-up for that sort of thing. Also, we spend $4 billion a year on precancerous cervical cellular changes, which could be avoided with if there was increased vaccination with HPV. So we appreciate your consideration of this bill, and we'll work with you on while it's on suspense.
Thank you. Next, please.
Eileen Schnittger, Women's Health Specialist, the Feminist Women's Health Centers of California, representing our 29,000 clients. And this is prevention. So we already have in current law testing and treatment for STDs, but where's the health care for prevention, the vaccines, and the post-HIV exposure medication? So it's really essential for teenagers to have this ability to include that part of their health care.
Thank you. Next, please.
Ryan Spencer with the California Medical Association in support.
Thank you. Next.
California Family Health Council in support.
Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter in support.
Brianna Pittman, Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California, also in support.
Thank you.
Geraldine Stapleton for the California National Organization for Women in support of this bill.
Thank you very much. Okay, that is support. Any opposition? Opposition to AB 499. Seeing none, Finance, you have a comment?
We are opposed on the basis of costs.
Members, this is a candidate for suspense. Seeing no objections, we'll move it to the suspense file and go on to AB 646, local public employee organizations.
Madam Chair, I'm willing to waive presentation on this and hope to work with you, with the committee as it is on suspense.
Thank you so much, Ms. Atkins. Is there testimony in favor of AB 464? Excuse me, 646. Public testimony on this bill now. If you're interested, come on up. This is AB 646.
Yes, Madam Chair, Brian Lundgren on behalf of the Orange County Board of Supervisors in opposition.
You're in opposition. Any other testimony on this bill, for or against? Finance?
We're also opposed.
All righty. That goes to suspense then, unless there's opposition. Mr. Bauer, you almost missed the boat.
I know. On behalf of the city of Murrieta, we are opposed, unfortunately.
All righty. Murrieta. That's right. They're taking a stand. Any... Then it goes to suspense, members, and we'll move on to AB 714, California Health Benefits Exchange.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here to present on that bill. I understand this is a candidate for suspense file, but I would like to briefly present on the fiscal impacts.
Certainly.
UCLA estimates that almost 5 million of 7 million Californians who are uninsured will be eligible for coverage in 2014 if we can get them enrolled. For those who enroll in the exchange, the federal government will pick up 100% of the cost of subsidies. For those newly eligible for Medi-Cal, the federal government will put 100% match for the first few years, scaling down to 90% match by 2020. Today, more than 3.3 million Californians are linked to various public programs that provide partial coverage or that end when someone turns 18 or otherwise loses eligibility. These programs have a much higher general fund match than the exchange or the newly eligible for Medi-Cal. Specifically, some of these public programs are currently funded entirely out of the general fund, and others have a higher general fund match than those in the proposed exchange or newly eligible Medi-Cal. Finally, there are also huge costs to the general fund for the uninsured as it relates to...
Could we have quiet in the audience? Excuse me, Ms. Atkins, just so we can hear up here. Go right ahead.
Finally, there are also huge costs to the general fund for the uninsured as it relates to the disproportionate share hospitals and uncompensated care. The savings in these areas can be maximized when people are ready to enroll on day one. Members, for these reasons, I would urge your favorable consideration coming off suspense. I have taken previous amendments to deal with notice redundancy that has lightened the workload for the departments. I will continue to work further on refinements with your staff and those who would like to continue to work on this.
Thank you. We'll go to your witnesses.
Madam Chair and members, Beth Capel on behalf of Health Access California, the sponsors of this measure. As Ms. Atkins noted, we have over 3 million Californians who currently have some link to a public program. This bill proposes to transfer them to the new exchange and to Medi-Cal expansion and move them off the general fund and on to the federal dollar. As your analysis notes, there are some minor costs for notices in the current year. Most of the additional costs would be incurred in the budget year, in which there would be very substantial general fund savings. And so we will look forward to looking with you and your staff while this is on suspense.
Elizabeth Landsberg with the Western Center on Law and Poverty, here in support.
Alicia Sanchez with the American Cancer Society, in support.
Brianna Pittman with Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California, in support.
Thank you.
Rebecca Gonzalez. Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter, in support.
Juan Thomas, California Medical Association, in support.
Kathy Mossberg, California Family Health Council, in support.
Any other testimony in support? Is there opposition testimony? Any opposition? Finance, do you have a comment?
We are opposed to the bill. We believe that there are costs and that the bill may be a bit premature given that legislation was enacted just last year to establish the telephone hotlines and whatnot.
Thank you. Members, again, this is a candidate for suspense. Unless there's objections, we'll put it in the suspense file, and then we'll go on to AB 826, services for mentally ill parolees.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the opportunity to present 826. I serve as chair to the Assembly Select Committee on Homelessness. We've completed 3 hearings so far this year on topics that include providing solutions for all populations of homeless individuals. This includes preventing homelessness for those who are about to be released from prison. And that's why I introduced AB 826, the Integrated Services for Mentally Ill Parolees. In 2009, Senators Steinberg and Lowenthal led the charge to identify resources for dealing with mentally ill parolees. The ISMIT program was formed through this effort. The first phase of this program was distributed through an RFP process run through the California Department Corrections and Rehabilitation. The first round of contracts is about to expire, and that is why we need AB 826. We need to ensure that the next round of contracts contemplates the issues and concerns that were raised during the last 3 years. AB 826 was drafted with input from stakeholders, practitioners, and advocates. We've been working closely with the department to understand how parole currently works with regard to this very specific population. As noted by the Department of Finance, there are no costs to the state. The current budget appropriated funds this year to the tune of $10 million. This bill specifically points out that ISMIP only occurs when the item is budgeted for. With me today.
Yeah, let's go to your witnesses.
Zach Olmstead from Housing California. It's a double win for our state. We reduced homelessness and recidivism, which of course reduced significantly the costs to the state. Nothing in AB 826 is intended to be an entitlement or indicate that all inmates or parolees who are eligible will be able to participate in the program. It just seeks to clarify how people should be prioritized to this existing program in order to get the best bang for our buck. And to do that, we need to prioritize people who are being discharged directly into homelessness because they are the most likely to recidivate. And we know that without stable housing, which should be among the array of services offered, which is currently not being offered, they're much more likely to recidivate. Since DOF has indicated they're not against the bill, obviously we help get this money in the budget because it saves money to the state with reducing recidivism, and we're just offering these suggestions on how to better get those outcomes, and that is by prioritizing those who are homeless and making sure that housing is a better use, as an included use. We've had a lot of evidence that we can certainly share with you another time about how those recidivism rates have declined with this kind of method. Thank you for your
comments. Any other testimony for or against finance?
Madam Chair, we are opposed to the bill. We believe that it's unnecessary to begin with, but also overly prescriptive.
All righty. Members, again, it's a suspense file candidate, and without objection, we'll put it there. Thank you, Ms. Atkins. And we'll move on. Ms. Campos, are you here? Here you go. AB 501. You're waiving presentation on that one. Thank you.
501,
right?
yes.
And then we'll go on to AB 551, prevailing wage and public contracts. And this is a due pass, members.
Thank you, Madam Chair. AB 551 will strengthen the state's Prevailing Wage Act by increasing the penalties for abusive of the act. Currently, contractors and subcontractors who are found in violation of the state's Prevailing Wage Act pay a minor monetary penalty that does not act as a real deterrent. These penalties and fines have not been reviewed or adjusted in nearly 10 years. This bill coincides with the state's auditor's recommendation to the governor asking him to have state agencies and departments review and adjust fines and penalties that have not been adjusted in the last 2 years. Members, these fines and penalties are deposited into the general fund and hopefully in the future will be a cost saving to the state of California. I have here to testify as the state building trades, Jeremy, and a few other in support.
We'll go to your witnesses. First.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here again on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council, the proud sponsors of this bill. We are constantly fighting against doing away with the prevailing wage, not paying the prevailing wage on a local level and a state level. This is borne out by the most recent Bureau of Field Enforcement study from 2009 that showed over $10 million in unpaid prevailing wages was uncovered by the state. And there were also 9 debarments that year of contractors who had repeatedly violated the Prevailing Wage Act. This not only obviously affects our members and workers who are non-union and union who get paid the prevailing wage on projects, but the good contractors that try and do the right thing.
That's $10 million, you said, right?
$10 million, correct.
And is that, are those random checks, or is that the whole amount of unpaid or low-paid prevailing wages, or is that just a sample?
It's from 2009. They're random checks. They figure out kind of where to go, and they do a sweep, so to speak. So I just wanted to finish by saying that good contractors who try and pay middle-class wages like the prevailing wage is also get gypped out of contracts because they get underbid. So for these reasons, we're happy to support the bill and hope you can support it today, too.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Eduardo Martinez on behalf of the California State Pipe Trades Council, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and the Western States Council of Sheet Metal Workers, echoing the comments of Mr. Smith in support.
Thank you.
Sarah Phlox, the California Labor Federation, also in support of the bill. Thank you.
All righty. More supporters? Is there more support? Opposition? Is there opposition to the bill? Finance, do you have a comment?
No file.
No file on this, members. This is a due pass. Thank you, Senator Alquist. Any other comments, members? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? No. Walters, no. Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, no. Liu? Pavley? Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
We'll keep that open for Senator Steinberg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campos. Mr. Perez, and you're going to present on two?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
Both suspense candidates. We'll go to AB 893, State Government.
If I may, Madam Chair, yes, I will not be speaking on AB 532, AB 1150. I am speaking on AB 893, as well as 894, but I also will be speaking on behalf of Mr. Bob Blumenfeld's bill, AB 700.
Mr. Blumenfeld, just on 700?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair and members, thanking you as well for allowing me to present AB 893 relative to State Infrastructure Bank's provision of technical assistance to small and rural communities. This year, the Assembly Committee on Jobs, which I chair, has advanced a package of 4 bills to improve the activities of the iBank. One of those measures, which I will present in a moment, is Bob Blumenfeld's bill, would make the iBank an independent entity and come out from under the administrative authority of the Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency. But before this occurs, though, we must ensure that the iBank has the appropriate statutory direction to deliver a local infrastructure program that is fair and equitable. As you know, the iBank is funded not from the general fund, but rather from the fees and other revenues derived from bond issuances. Since its inception, the iBank has issued over $30 billion in conduit bonds, resulting in sufficient revenues to pay existing staff and other administrative needs. I believe, and this measure clarifies, that technical assistance is a central part of administering an infrastructure financing program. While some communities have the staff and expertise to apply for iBank funds, small and rural communities often do not. So while on one hand we advertise that the iBank money are available to all communities, it can really be a false promise. It has been noted that this bill could potentially increase staff workload at the iBank or possibly add to travel and facilities costs. One could argue that the iBank, however, is already incurring travel and facility costs through its current practices. Moreover, AB 893 the bill does not specify that staff must travel throughout the state. There are ways to provide technical assistance through the use of technology or by simply picking up the telephone. Further, funding for this additional technical assistance can be provided from within the iBank's existing resources and does not need to come from money otherwise committed to local government infrastructure. The bottom line is that if the iBank is to run a program that is statutorily mandated to be available to all communities, then there must be a reasonable expectation that the communities most in need of the assistance can successfully compete for these funds. AB 893 is an important and necessary bill that will pay off in big dividends by helping communities secure financing to make important investments in infrastructure that will support local economic development. I respectfully ask for a aye vote as the bill comes off suspense.
All righty. Witnesses?
I'm Stan Hazelroth, Executive Director of the iBank, just here for technical questions.
All righty. Next, please.
Thomas Vu with the California Chamber of Commerce and Support. We believe this bill will create jobs and infrastructure in these communities. Thank you.
Additional testimony? Anybody else? Is there opposition to the iBank? Seeing no opposition, Finance.
We are opposed because it does create unfunded costs for the iBank.
All right. This is, members, candidate for suspense. Unless there's objection, we'll move it to the suspense file and go on to AB 894, Economic Development.
I could do that, Madam Chair, or if you'd like for me to just finish off the other iBank bill, Mr. Blumenfeld's iBank bill.
It makes no difference to me. Are we all set with the other one? Yeah. All right. We'll go to Mr. Blumenfeld, Economic Development Bank, AB 700. And this, members, is a due pass.
AB 700 would remove the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank from the Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency and establish it as an independent agency. AB 700 also designates the Director of Finance as the chair of the iBank Governing Board. By changing the organizational structure...
Who is the chair? Excuse me?
The chair is, I believe, at the head of the Department of Housing and Transportation.
Oh, okay. All right.
Is that correct? So by changing the organizational structure of the iBank, AB 700 will streamline the bank's administrative functions and will enable the iBank to become a more efficient, visible, and effective financing authority that will help support important state infrastructure projects as well as California's other top priorities. AB 700 will not impact the general fund. The iBank does not receive any ongoing general fund support. All of iBank's administrative costs are offset by program incomes, including fees, interest income, and other revenues. The iBank's program continues to provide sufficient revenues to support all operating expenses.
Okay, we'll go to your witnesses.
I move the bill.
Oh, this is, okay, you're moving the bill. Are you a witness, sir, or just for questions?
For questions.
Is there testimony in favor of AB 700? In favor of AB 700. Is there opposition? Finance, do you have a?
No file.
Right, we have a motion from Senator Emerson. Please call the roll.
Kehoe.
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters.
Aye.
Walters, aye. Alquist. Emerson. Emerson, aye. Liu. Pavley. Pavley, aye. Price. Price, aye. Runner. Steinberg. Alquist, aye.
Thank you. All right, so who are we missing, Senator Liu? 6-0, you have sufficient votes. I'll hold it for Senator Liu. All right, he's coming back.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Madam
and
Chair.
now we'll return to AB 894, Economic Development. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. AB 894 establishes the framework for a program to assist California manufacturers by offering direct loans as well as guarantee on loans and lines of credit. The bill is designed to make California as competitive as possible in accessing federal funds, which can be used for the development and expansion of manufacturing facilities. If the federal era monies are an example, California may have as little as 6 weeks to respond to a federal grant application. That application has to not only be successful in maximizing California's share of the federal dollars, but it also must propose funding for programs that can actually be used in a timely fashion. Let's look at what is currently happening with ERA monies at the Energy Commission. According to State Auditor, as of June 9, 2011, the Energy Commission has only spent $69.9 million of the $226 million authorized. This is only 31% of the award. If these monies are not spent by April of 2012, the remainder will revert to Washington, D.C. to be reallocated to states that were better prepared to spend the money. This bill tries to be sure that future federal funds can be applied for and more expeditiously spent, including having basic issues around deployment, oversight, and reporting agreed upon in advance of the 6-week application cycle. Madam Chair and Senators, as you know, manufacturing plays a crucial role in the California economy, contributing over $179 billion to the state's overall GDP, offering some of the highest wages for workers, as well as supporting millions of small and mid-sized companies through the supply chains. This bill is also sponsored by the California Labor Federation and supported by the California Manufacturing and Technology Association, and I ask for your aye vote.
We'll go for your witnesses.
Madam Chair, members, Sarah Flox from the California Labor Federation. We're the proud sponsor of this bill. It's a bill that we developed in collaboration with the California Manufacturers Association to make sure that manufacturers can access the credit that they need to retain and create jobs in California. This simply creates a framework. I just want to address some of the fiscal issues.
Go right ahead.
There's language in the bill that prevents any general fund monies from being used in the fund. CIDFAC would have to adopt a resolution before any monies were given out.
Right, but it doesn't identify any funds.
No, it doesn't. It is basically creating it so that if money comes down, like the ARA funds, that we are ready to deploy that money and put it on the ground right away, or the Sherrod Brown Impact Act, or any other monies. Other states, such as Pennsylvania, have created similar funds so that they can get federal money out the door. And also, there's an application fee that manufacturers would pay that would cover the cost of setting up the fund. This was something that was suggested by the California Manufacturers Association, and it's something that they feel that their members would be willing to pay to cover the cost of the program to have access to funds when it's capitalized. So we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional testimony in favor? Is there any opposition? Finance?
We're opposed because it does establish a new program without any funding source.
Members, this is a candidate for suspense. I'm not seeing any objections, so we'll move it to the suspense file. Thank you, Mr. Perez. We'll work with you while it's in the suspense file.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that there's a bill that's not up for today, AB 1411. It's related to enterprise zones, but I just wanted to let you know that we're going to remove that.
You're not going to present that bill?
No, we're not.
Okay.
And it has to do with enterprise zones and being comprehensive with that effort. So
thank you.
We're going to pull it off the calendar.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for letting us know. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Furutani? You are presenting on 3 bills.
Yes, I am.
SB 563.
SB 563.
Yeah, and there's an amendment suggested at the bottom of the analysis to require cities to reimburse the assessor for any costs. That would remove your problem with the suspense file.
We accept that.
Okay,
amendment.
good. So this is then a due pass? That's correct? All righty. So if you could be brief, and we'll take it up for a vote.
Thank you. AB 563 is a modest measure that will allow the county assessor's offices to share specific data with city finance offices pertaining to the collection of the documentary transfer tax, or DTT. Specifically, this bill will allow for the sharing of information as part of an investigation as to whether a DTT has been imposed and collected. AB 563 would result in improved and increased tax collection of the DTT, which is an existing tax. This is not a new tax or a tax increase. I ask for your aye vote.
All righty. Witnesses?
Sylvia Solisha on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, sponsor of the bill. This is modeled after another information sharing program that currently exists with the Franchise Tax Board. That one has been very successful in the discovery of non-compliant taxpayers, and we hope for similar success with this measure. So we ask for your aye vote.
Additional testimony in favor? Any additional testimony?
No.
Opposition? And finance?
No file.
All righty, members, this can be a due pass if I have a motion. Well, Senator Price moves the bill as amended, and we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? No. Walters, no. Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, no. Liu? Liu, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. Price? Aye. Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
5-2. You have sufficient votes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Furutani. And now you're going to do court interpreters?
Yes.
AB 618.
Correct.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. California's Constitution states a person unable to understand English who is charged with a crime has a right to an interpreter throughout the proceedings. However, individuals are often unfamiliar with this constitutional right to an interpreter, hence the need for a statute to codify what we believe are the core principles that comprise the defendant's right to an interpreter. Our goal with AB 618 is not to set forth new, far-reaching rights for defendants. Rather, that we are trying to do with AB 618 is to ensure that the defendant's constitutional right to an interpreter is applied uniformly in California courts and in a manner consistent with current law. With me to testify in support is Ignacio Hernandez, representing the California Federation of Interpreters, Communications Workers of America, Local 35931.
All righty. There are more than significant costs to the bill. So if the witnesses want to address any of that, fine. It's a candidate for suspense.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of both the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice and also on behalf of the California Federation of Interpreters. We would like to address the costs. We think that the fiscal analysis based on the projections of Judicial Council are significantly miscalculated. If I could very briefly address the information that Judicial Council put forward that is incorrect, and that way as we go forward. The first issue is that it's being presented as if this is a new requirement. This is current law, and in fact, it is basically unanimous that in jury trials or in criminal trials that you have to have a separate interpreter for each co-defendant, and that basically is not disputed. And yet the fiscal analysis that's being presented by Judicial Council makes it seem as if this is a brand new requirement, and they're trying to calculate, well, if we cover all new trials, all new co-defendants, it's going to be a significant cost. So those numbers should be a fraction of what has been projected. So that's one of the problems. The other problem is that there's already flexibility in current law to use current interpreters to fill those posts, to fill those assignments. This is just codifying current law and making sure everyone knows that this is current law and there's nowhere to turn. There's another problem with the math, and I'll let the next witness address that.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Brandon Scoville on behalf of the California Federation of Interpreters. And I just want to point out and make it clear that the Judicial Council is calculating that 25 trials that have multiple defendants would require 25 interpreters throughout the year. This is, it just doesn't make any sense. This is assuming that one interpreter does one trial and then is paid for the rest of the year to do nothing. I am a court interpreter, but it doesn't require a court interpreter to know that that's ridiculous. Court interpreters actually do over 1,000 cases per year. And so these numbers are grossly inaccurate. And even if this was just a mistake, it also ignores that these excuse me one second. It does not, it says how many cases need an interpreter, need multiple interpreters, but it doesn't say how many were provided multiple interpreters or how many people waived. Many of these cases are getting multiple interpreters, or the defendant is waiving their right. So the actual number of cases that are going to need an additional interpreter but aren't getting one now is minimal, and I believe that it can be handled with current resources and with current staffing.
All righty, thank you. Next, please.
Ronald Coleman on behalf of the California Immigrant Policy Center, also here in support.
Additional testimony in favor? More people in favor? Is there opposition? Any opposition? Come on up. If we could have those seats. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Tracy Kenny on behalf of the Judicial Council. We absolutely dispute that the requirement that every co-defendant is entitled to a separate interpreter in a jury trial or any other proceeding is a bright line rule that currently exists in the law. And our courts report to us that they routinely require defendants without a waiver to share an interpreter without any loss of due process to those defendants, and significantly increasing the efficiency of the use of those interpreter resources. The Los Angeles Superior Court alone estimates that they would need 50 to 100 additional interpreters because on a daily basis they use interpreters throughout their court system to provide interpretation services to multiple defendants, and in each of those cases you'd require additional interpreters on each of those days. We provide over 1 million interpreter service days over the course of the year at a cost of over $90 million, and so a significant increase in the number of interpreters would in fact be a significant cost to the courts in millions of dollars, which we cannot absorb at this time, in which we have significant unprecedented budget cuts of $350 million. So we respectfully ask for your no vote on this bill and to consider the cost as it goes to suspense.
Yeah, this will go to suspense. Any further witnesses for or against? Let's hear from Finance, and then members, if you have any questions, otherwise it goes to suspense.
I have no file.
No file on this one? What's this? Okay. They must have sent it to us first. All right. This document says opposed, but do you want to take a look at it, Mr. Lloyd? Mr. Lloyd, you want to take a look? I mean, since
next bill, Matt.
Have you seen this paper before, as Perry Mason used to say? Who knows? All right. All right. So members, unless there's questions or objections, we will put this item in suspense, and we'll work with the author in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Let's see. That's court interpreters.
We have
And then next is 1330.
Correct.
Career technical.
Yes. Again, Madam Chair and members, AB 1330 gives high school students the option of completing a career technical education course to fulfill an existing high school graduation requirement. The intent of the bill is to prepare students for the workforce and increase high school graduation rates, which is the ever-pressing issue given our high school dropout crisis. This bill does not create an unfunded local mandate. AB 1330 does not mandate the school districts create new CTE programs or courses. Therefore, school districts will not be forced to take on unexpected costs. And this option does not extend the school day, avoiding the creation of significant costs for school districts. School districts must opt into this program to use 1330 as a graduation requirement. The bill has received the bipartisan support in Policy Committee and has the support of the State Superintendent of Education, Tom Torlakson, California Teachers Association, California Federation of Teachers, the Association of California School Administrators, the California School Boards Association, and Labor and Business. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. And your witnesses.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here again on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. I want to be very clear to reiterate, it is our intention to not mandate school districts create a CTE course. If they don't already have one, they can opt into this. That's the way the bill, we envision the bill working. We want to make sure it works that way. And we just want to say that we aren't against college. We're for college. In fact, many of our apprenticeship programs partner with colleges. We just want to make sure for kids who can't go to college, they get a taste of a CTE course in high school so they understand there's a middle-class livelihood for them after high school if they so choose. For those reasons, we support. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members. Janice Warden on behalf of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson, in support. For reasons already stated, it shows that our students will be able to have choices and options with AB 1330. And additionally, there are many visual and performing arts classes that are also CTE related as well. So it just continues to give students those examples. And one thing in the bill on page 8, it deals with the reporting requirements that I believe Senate Ed put in the bill, and some of those reporting requirements did raise some of the costs associated that the Department of Education would have to pay. However, we are working with the author's office, and we'll be in contact with your staff in regards to some subsequent suggested amendments that will include reporting but reduce the fiscal threshold. Thank you.
Yes. Madam Chair and members, Isabel Garcia with the California Teachers Association. We ask for your strong support for this critical education bill that provides well-balanced graduation requirements that prepares pupils for college and careers. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Chris Walker on behalf of 3 clients, the California Association of Sheet Metal Air Conditioning Contractors, the California Automotive Business Coalition, and the California Industrial and Technology Education Association. Many times we talk about the value of CTE and what CTE is good for, but when it comes to the education system, it's not really that good for kids. It doesn't help towards their graduation, and it certainly isn't compelled by college for admissions. It's time that we believe that we elevate CTE as a priority in our public schools as part of a graduation requirement choice so that kids that want to pursue, as we heard earlier, middle-class lifestyle, they can. Thank you.
Additional testimony in favor? Is there any opposition testimony? Is there opposition? Okay, come on up. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Katie Valenzuela with Public Advocates. I'm with an opposed unless amended position on this bill. We work with parents and students throughout the state whose testimonies tell us that there's still a lack of high-quality college or career courses in their schools. But in our current budget climate, without providing any additional resources, AB 1330 actually threatens to make that access much, much worse. In the only 2 years since categorical flexibility has been enacted, the LAO survey of districts tells us that Programs associated with the Arts and Music Block Grant have been reduced in 77% of districts in our state and completely eliminated in 26% of districts in our state. AB 1330 will grant 4 years, which is twice the time that categorical flexibility has been in effect. And this will give districts a very targeted flexibility towards these very vital courses. Research shows us that arts and foreign language courses are already in short supply, and that can often be the sole obstacle to students completing their successful A to G requirements that they need to get into college. Further, we know that the University of California has certified almost 10,000 courses as both A to G and career training, and over half of those are VPA and foreign language courses. Clearly, these courses are the most cost-effective option that give our students the best access to both choices. Therefore, we strongly urge you to keep this bill on suspense until we can amend it in a way that will ensure that it will not further reduce access to VPA and foreign language courses. Thank you very much.
Martha Zaragoza Diaz, representing Californians Together. First, I'd like to say that Californians Together consists of organizations throughout the state that represent students who are English learners. Students that I know, Assemblymember for Otani has their concern at heart. And it was a very difficult decision to take a position on oppose unless amended on this bill, but we have. AB 1330 pits one CTE course against 2 other elective courses, arts and language. And language to us is very important because it is an A through G elective. One CTE course is not a college prep program in light of CDE standards with regards to career tech education programs. Only those schools that currently provide CTE courses would be able to provide that one CTE class that we're talking about in this bill. For those schools who don't have the resources, who don't currently provide CTE courses, their students would be not accessing those types of classes. So it's those very students that Assemblymember Furutani is trying to help that will be jeopardized with this bill. And so we believe that without the additional resources, this bill will not help those students that he's trying to help.
All righty. Thank you, ma'am. Any other testimony for or against? Finance. What's that?
No file.
No file? We do.
Madam Chair, you may have analyses from a previous version of the bill or something.
Oh, this is August 15th, amendment date.
Oh,
Anyway, Brendan, the document says opposed. We'll pass it over to you. This is a candidate for suspense despite DOF's ambivalence. And unless there's questions, we'll put it there. And we will take a serious look at it. No, all joking aside, Mr. Fortani, it's just we don't usually have more information than he does. So that goes to suspense. Thank you. Next is Ms. Lowenthal. You are presenting just the one bill and one for the speaker. Correct. I understand. Okay, do you want to do yours first?
Sure.
All righty. AB 1114, medications for inmates. This is a due pass, members.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appropriate and beneficial mental health treatment is imperative for inmates. We need to ensure that all inmates have access to the mental health care they need and that we protect both the inmate and the staff providing care through the process. Since January, we have worked with stakeholders to strike a balance between protecting the inmate's right to due process and the need for mental health care for those in crisis. This bill maintains the due process protections for inmates under the existing protocol. However, it shortens the timeline from 47 days to no more than 30 days prior to an administrative law judge hearing. The amendments clarify that the bill applies solely to inmates in state prisons. The bill has received broad bipartisan support. and I respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you. We'll go to your witnesses. You, sir?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Randall Hager for the California Psychiatric Association. As the author said, this is a very balanced bill. It does shorten time. I think it will save funds in the end because it also allows for less hearings. One of the provisions are to change a 6-month to a 1-year provision so you don't have to rehear. So I think there are savings in that. Thank you.
Next, please.
Juan Thomas with the California Medical Association in support of the bill.
Judy Wallen with NAMI California in support.
Very good. Any more testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
Do I have a file?
No file. Senator Emerson moves the bill. Is there an amendment? There is no amendment. No. All righty. A motion by Senator Emerson. Any comments, members? Then we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Aye. Walters, aye. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, aye. Liu? Liu, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
7-0. You have sufficient votes. Let's see. Now we'll take up the Speaker's bill, AB 427.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm presenting Assembly Bill 427 on behalf of Mr. Speaker. The bill refines the Proposition 1B Transit Security Bond Program to ensure the timely delivery and comprehensive use of these important capital project funds. AB 427 focuses on the mass transit program, funded by 60% of the $1 billion bond program. The mass transit program is governed by the State Transit Assistance Formula, STA. Each eligible STA recipient receives bond funds from this program. Current law does not allow the administering agency, CalEMA, or a regional transportation entity, to redirect funds in the event that an STA-eligible agency doesn't have need for the funding. This bill allows CalEMA or the transportation regional entity to redirect funds to shovel-ready projects only in cases where the eligible agency signals that they do not have needs for the funds. In closing, AB 427 provides a mechanism to identify stalled bond funds and allows regional transit agencies and the CalEMA to redirect bond funds to ready-to-go transit system safety, security, and disaster response projects.
Very good. We'll go to your witness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Gus Corey here on behalf of the California Transit Association. We're in strong support. Appreciate the Speaker carrying this measure. We believe that this bill is necessary to make sure that we maximize all dollars that are made available to transit agencies in order to construct projects.
We got it. This is a due pass, members. Any other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Do I have a motion on this? Senator Alquist, thank you, moves the bill. No amendments, right? Department of Finance?
We're neutral.
Then we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Aye. Walters, aye. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, aye. Liu? Liu, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
7-0. You have sufficient votes.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Ms. Lowenthal. Next is Mr. Eng, and then Mr. Knight, and then Mr. Block. Hang tight. Mr. Eng, you're doing 3 presentations?
Yes, we're waiving 597, and we're very briefly and
all right, let's go to 685.
685. Thank you. Madam Chair and members, this bill declares that it's the state policy that every human being has a right to clean, affordable water. The analysis raised some cost concerns for the Department of Public Health to hire additional staff. I would like to point out, however, the bill does not require the review and revision of existing grant guidelines or regulations. It simply states this policy must be implemented when the agency revises or establishes grant guidelines or regulations. I have my
all right, let's go to your
support.
witnesses.
Vern Gehring, representing Food and Water Watch, in support of the bill, one of the co-sponsors. This bill sets a clear a clear goal for the state of California. Work toward ensuring that all residents have access to clean water, water that won't make them sick. The plain language of the bill makes a policy statement. It does not establish a statutory right. The bill doesn't require the policy to be accomplished in 1 year or even 1 decade. And as Mr. Ng indicated, it does not require state agencies to take any specific steps to implement the policy. They're supposed to do it as they, on their own initiative, modify existing regulations or adopt new criteria based on some future legislation. The costs claimed by the Department of Public Health are wrong and should not have been given legitimacy. In addition, it's regrettable that the committee's analysis reports an unfunded, highly speculative claim that the bill could lead to significant costs, making the state the water provider of last resort. The bill says exactly the opposite. Quote, this section does not expand any obligation of the state to provide water or to require the expenditure of additional resources. To our knowledge, no attorney or judge has issued a credible review suggesting that a court would rule otherwise. Water-related bond measures always highlight clean drinking water in their titles because polling regularly reveals that the public wants the state to resolve this problem. However, once bond measures are passed, very little of the actual money providing the bond ever goes to drinking water disadvantaged communities. For example, Prop 84, adopted in 2006, only 2% of the revenues of that bond measure ever went to water disadvantaged communities. This bill is a modest step toward attempting to correct that injustice, and we urge your support of the bill.
Thank you. Next, please.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I'm Reverend Lindy Ramsden, Executive Director and Senior Minister of the Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry Action Network, and on behalf of the Coalition of Environmental Justice, Health, Environment, Faith-Based, and Tribal co-sponsors of AB 685, who've gathered over 1,200 letters of support, we ask that you give consideration to 3 significant cost issues with regard to the status quo, not only to individuals who suffer, but also to the fiscal health of the state of California. As Vern mentioned, the status quo does not adequately prioritize funds that California voters already have passed. When water bonds are passed, clean drinking water is mentioned as a priority, but as we've seen with Prop 50, less than 2% of the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan funds have been spent on communities without safe drinking water. If AB 685 had been in place, we would have had a better guidelines and outcomes in that issue. Secondly, the status quo creates significant public health expenses. Children who grow up where water is toxic get in the habit of reaching for a soda instead of a glass of water, increasing rates of childhood obesity and diabetes. Those who do drink, cook, or bathe in toxic water suffer illnesses from rashes to cancer, driving up health costs, and losing days at work and reducing daily attendance at school. Thirdly, the status quo depresses property values and the tax base of communities who suffer from toxic water and or well closures. Earlier in today's hearing, and yes, I was here all day, it was ironic to hear a film industry speaker state that parts of California can substitute for Appalachia. I think we can do better. What's the cost to California, to our business climate, to our reputation, by allowing third world conditions to continue in our state? This bill has national and international attention as the lead bill in California's Human Right to Water bill package. We believe that projected costs of AB 685 are inaccurate and speculative, while the costs of the status quo are substantial and unconscionable. We respectfully ask for your support.
Thank you for your comments. Other testimony in favor? We need those chairs, folks. If we can just have your name and affiliation, please.
Madam Chair, members, Justin Malone on behalf of the League of Conservation Voters in support of this fundamental right bill.
All righty. Next, please.
Michael Endicott on behalf of Sierra Club California, also in strong support.
All righty. Any other testimony?
Zoe Lidstrom on behalf of the Planning and Conservation League in support.
All righty. Any other testimony? Is there opposition testimony?
Quickly, this is Gail Delahunt with Western Growers Association. We have worked with the author and gave him some suggested amendments that would remove our opposition, but the main overarching concern was the right to water. And so we do believe that that would create a lawsuit for us, and we ask for your opposition to this bill.
Additional testimony?
Laura Parr on behalf of the San Joaquin River Exchange Contractors Water Authority in opposition of the bill.
All righty. Any other testimony? Finance?
No file.
This is a suspense candidate. Members, any comments? Then it goes to suspense. And Mr. Eng, you're going on to AB 1088, demographic data.
Can I close on the last bill, just briefly?
Mr.
Okay,
Eng,
all right.
please, thank you.
All right.
I really appreciate it. I understand how important
Sleep
it
is a human right. I understand. Okay, so AB 1088 was narrowly drafted to cut down costs. It's a bill that empowers legislators to know who they're representing, because currently we don't among 15% of the population. This bill does not require a separate checkbox for each additional ethnic category included in the bill. Departments could use the U.S. Census form as a model on how to collect data on these additional groups, which provides a checkbox for other Asian and a checkbox for other Pacific Islander with a writing line for each. I have with me Santos Sarim Santana representing the sponsors, and Mr. Paulo Gukake and Mr. Stephen Topolo in support of the bill.
All righty.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Santosh Siram Santana, representing Asian Americans for Civil Rights and Equality, the Asian Pacific Legal Center, and API SCAN, all of whom are sponsors of the bill. We know the bill is a candidate for suspense, but just wanted to take this opportunity to briefly address the costs that are reflected in the analysis. Of the 4 state agencies, the bill is asking to collect and disaggregate data. 2 of those state agencies have stated the cost to implement the bill would be minor and absorbable. The 3rd state agency, the California Department of Public Health, have also stated that the cost is a minimal $27,000 to implement the bill, and that would be a one-time cost to update their computer programs. The sponsors hope to be able to work with your staff to get the bill off suspense and keep it moving forward, because it means so much for our Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islander community here in California. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Welcome, sir.
Yes.
Hi, excuse me, I'm kind of first time in here.
That's all right.
I'm from the Fijian community, and we represent most of the population base that we have in Northern California, pretty much.
In Northern California?
Northern California.
And whereabouts do you live, sir?
In Sacramento. I'm from Sacramento.
Well,
so I'm here to support the bill.
Did you give us your name yet?
Apollo.
Okay.
Mulake.
Very good. Go right ahead. And you're in support of the bill?
I'm in support of the bill.
Anything else you want to add?
I'm just letting you guys know that it's important for us to support the bill as a community, and we're growing in population numbers based on the fact that most of our people are relocating here to California, which is on the Pacific coast, pretty much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, members, committee members. My name is Stephen Topolo. I'm a Samoan member of the Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander communities here in Sacramento, working in partnership with many of the 30 supporting groups who have mentioned support for this bill. During the 2010 U.S. Census, I was privileged to serve as the Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander Partnership Specialist for the U.S. Census Bureau in the Northern California region. I am in support of the bill, 1088. This bill provides a critical building block for our Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander communities in California because it builds on the federal OMB Policy Directive 15, which added Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders as a distinct and separate racial category in the 2000 U.S. Census. This bill would nudge California into alignment with federal standards and provide for the collection of meaningful data for our Tongan and Fijian brothers and sisters community. We respectfully ask the committee to work with Assemblymember Ng to keep this bill moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your comments. Yes, ma'am.
Martha Zaragoza.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Martha Zaragoza Diaz, representing Californians Together, and we strongly support the bill. We believe that further disaggregating the data and these specific populations will provide relevant information to the state and to other policymakers with regards to these populations. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Beth Capel on behalf of California Pan-Ethnic Health Network, also in support.
Ronald Coleman on behalf of the California Immigrant Policy Center, also here in support.
Alicia Sanchez with the American Cancer Society in support.
Any other testimony in favor? Is there opposition? Opposition to this? Come on down. Now's your turn. And we have 3 seats. There you go, sir. Just introduce yourself. Who's
My name
first?
is June Wesley.
Thank you. Welcome.
And, Madam Chair and distinguished members of the committee, I also like to acknowledge my Senator Ted Lieu, although we're on the opposite side of this. And I would also like to acknowledge Assemblyman Ng. We have discussed this. Number one, 1088 deals with Asian Pacific and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander demographics. Our concern is that it's well written in terms of certain people in there, but it did not allow for the Pacific Islander who are known as Nahopi, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. We were not notified about this until after the fact. At that point, we were very happy that Assemblyman Ng came over to Los Angeles area to talk to our community leaders, and we in turn stated that, you know what, we really want two bills. Here are the reasons. In 85, we had been able to get a Pacific Islander bill under AB 3366. That was through Speaker of the House, Willie Brown. Second, we in 1995 went to the hearings for the OMB, which is the Office of Management Budget, that dealt with looking at the different bills, ethnic groups and racial groups. What we found is that we were able in 1997 to break out the Pacific Islander group, and we are now a standalone group called the Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander. We are Nahopi. Our problem is...
So Native Hawaiian is not the demographic you want added. You want something more.
What we're saying at this point right now, the bill as it is not
Native
acceptable.
Hawaiian in the bill.
The bill as it is not acceptable. We would like to see it suspended and we can deal with it again. The issue that we're saying right here is that the Nahopi is a standalone racial category. Right. You have African American, Latino, you have the Asian, you have the American Indians, but somehow the Nahopi is stuck with the Asian. That was in 97 we broke out. All I'm asking is respect the Nahopi peoples. And I'm coming here with 56. We called the meeting in August 6th. 56 faith-based, organization, community-based, all Nahopi only. What I'm saying that is that these Nahopis were from the beginning when they migrated here, and they were not made or developed by Asian groups. So I'd like to submit this in.
The committee will take the list, and Ms. Onodera, you'll pass it along. Next, please. Thank you,
Talofa. My name is Salamata Lee. I'm Executive Director of Native American Pacific Islander professional healthcare provider based in Torrance, California. The concern, as my colleague stated, the concern is grouping us together. There is a mandate since 1997 that we have a standalone category. Mm-hmm. This is our concern. We do have a standalone category. Just as this country recognized the other major categories, African American, Latino, Hispanics, Native Alaskans, we are asking that we have our own category. We have a standalone category because when we continue to group together and mess together, we will never be able to get a true picture of who we really are and what our needs needed to be served. This is the reason why there is a concern here. We've ought to respect. We are grateful, and I'm very grateful for the author of this bill. Yes, to go ahead and collect what we needed, the data that is really lacking in our community. But what we're saying is we have our own special category, our standalone category. All we're saying is please honor and implement our category on a state level. It's already mandated on the national, on the federal level. So this is all we're asking, to please honor our category, and just like all the other specific categories.
I understand your comments, and thank you. Next, sir.
Madam Chairman, honorable members of your committee, my name is Reverend Mamoy Mamoy. I'm the project coordinator for the Office of Samoan Affairs. We are located in Carson, California. We're only just a few of the constituents of Ted Lieu's District 25, I believe it is. Our concern here is that we've already mentioned, my colleagues have already mentioned the directive, OMB directive. What we're trying to say is allow for our Pacific Islander community to really actualize by allowing for us to recognize, address the very divisive differences socially, educationally, health, economic, that our respective communities have. The Southern California Nahopi Coalition met many faith-based members, Pacific Islander community leaders from the Southern California District. We stand in solidarity in opposition to AB 1088. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other testimony against the bill? Against the bill. Finance, do you have a comment?
We've identified costs of about $336,000 who are opposed to the bill.
And that will be another challenge for Mr. Eng. Members, this is a suspense candidate. Unless there's comments. Mr. Liu?
I just had a question. Could you respond to what they raised?
Yes, this bill actually goes before, it actually goes further than any other bill, either in Congress, enacted, OMB 15, or otherwise, because it creates distinct categories for the Samoan, the Hawaiian, the Fijian, Chamorro, and 21 different groups. So I do not understand the opposition. That's point number one. Point number two, we also took amendments, but they then came back and said they wanted to have every single California department to put information, disaggregated data, which would blow the bill sky high in terms of costs. So I beg to differ. I am the first Asian Pacific Islander legislator to be from the island community of Hawaii, and I understand their concerns, and these are great people. Their hearts are in the right place. But the bill actually meets their expectation and goes even further, goes further than the Nahopi category. And so, in conclusion, the opposition is also asking, as far as the Nahopi reference, we have submitted amendments to read Asian Americans as well as Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders. We'd be more than happy to explore the possibility of adding the acronym of that text to the Legislative Council.
All righty. Let me just make a very brief comment, and we're grateful to have your testimony. When we talk about representing minority or ethnic communities, it is always a sensitive issue and one that deserves a lot of respect. You may have read in the papers recently, as all of us did, that our revenue expectations here in the state of California in the last quarter were $4 billion below what we expected. $4 billion below what we expected. We've been here since 10 o'clock this morning. Almost every bill on our file, almost every bill on the file is costing something. And it is going to be very, very, very hard to pass any of these bills. And the more costs we add on them, regardless of whether it's transportation, health, demographics, or anything else, it's going to be extremely challenging. This is going to be extremely challenging. So not just to Mr. Eng, but to the committee members and all the members of the legislature. We are in extremely tight times, and we've heard it so often for so many years, I think we're getting kind of numb. But this year, when we come back on the suspense file, members, we are going to have to be dealing with only the most critical bills. So I just ask you to keep that in mind, because unfortunately I think we're going to have to keep a number of bills that are on the file today that are worthy, that are talking about children's health, public safety, on and on. We're going to have to keep them in the suspense file and deal with them next year. So anyway, that's my little speech. I should have done it at the beginning of the hearing when there were more people here. But I did it now, and this item is going to go to suspense, and we'll deal with it a week from Thursday, Mr. Eng. And you have another bill, AB 1156 on bullying. Thank you for coming.
Yes. Thank you. I'll be very brief. The significant cost pressures identified in the analysis with regard to the training and school safety provisions are based completely on availability of funds. And secondly, potential for costs identified in terms of transfer rights should be significantly less, since students tend to avoid victimization by staying home from school, which adversely affects their academic performance. Therefore, I want to just cut to
We'll
the
go to
chase.
your-
Prevent
yeah,
the
we'll go to
witness.
your witnesses.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Patty Scripter. I'm with the California State PTA. We're proud to be the sponsors of this bill. And the statistics on bullying are pretty clear. And although you don't deal with emotional cost here, it's great. When you look at the fiscal pressure, there's a great cost to school districts. When kids are afraid to show up and bullying isn't addressed, then they're less likely to be in the seats. So there's a loss of ADA to districts, including the loss of instructional time to students. And there's also a cost to the state. When children are afraid to go to school, they're less likely to graduate. Only 41% of ninth graders who are chronically truant will graduate on time. This is an increased cost to the state in dropouts, in educational opportunities for the students, in job loss, tax revenue. There's a real cost pressure when bullying is not addressed. And so we hope that you'll find a way to look at this as one of those critical bills that you need to move when you look at the list.
Next, please.
Jennifer Moreno with the California Federation of Teachers, and I urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Any other testimony in favor? One more.
Geraldine Stapleton with the California National Organization for Women.
You're going to have to sit closer to the front.
Sorry about that. And yeah, if my legs were a little longer, right, it could be a little faster. And I also can speak on behalf of the Peace Alliance, and we would be absolutely more than ever in support of this, because bullying does lead to, I think, going into other things like sexual harassment and on into domestic violence. It is kind of like the
They're
little
all,
seed.
they're all connected,
there.
yes.
Yeah, so yes, we are very much in support of this bill.
Your point is well taken, and unfortunately it's the very tight economic times we're dealing with. But anyway, that's the pro testimony. Anybody opposed to AB 1156? Finance, do you have a comment?
No, we agree that there would be cost pressures, and we're opposed to the bill.
All righty. This is a candidate for suspense, members. There's no objections. It'll go to suspense. Mr. Eng, thank you for being so brief and for bringing up these important bills.
Thank you.
Members, let's see. Mr. Knight, are you here? There you go. AB 636, military service benefits. This is a due pass, members. Go right ahead, Mr. Knight. If you're testifying on the bill, come on down.
Thank you, Madam Chair. AB 636 proposes to allow a service member in the United States military who must withdraw from the University of California or a CSUs or a community college due to deployment the options of reasonable accommodation to complete the course or a refund of tuition and fees already paid regardless of the withdrawal date. Basically, this came about when some of our young men and women are called into action in Afghanistan and they have passed the withdrawal date. We thought that that would be reasonable, that they would get their money back.
All righty. Witnesses, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mike McGee with the California Community Colleges Board of Governors. We're in support of this measure. As stated in the analysis, it's a minor expansion of current law, so we expect very minor costs, if at all. They identified 321 students who needed the withdrawal in 2008 out of nearly 3 million students, so it's a very small number. As someone who served in peacetime, I know that deployments come whenever the military wants, and the people that would be affected by this bill, they would be in service to the country based probably on a national emergency. So we're very much in support of this measure.
All right. Next, please.
Yes, Madam Chair and esteemed committee, Bonnie Slauson on behalf of the California Community College League. The community colleges serve as the primary source of higher education for military veterans and our U.S. Armed Forces members. These students can be called to duty at any time, as Mr. Moki has indicated and the author, and we believe that they should not be penalized by losing their tuition costs and credits earned when they are called to duty and to service and to protect our nation. Thank you. We are in support.
Thank you. Any additional testimony in favor? Is there any opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
We're neutral.
And Senator Walters moved the bill. Any other comments? Mr. Liu?
Thank you for this good bill. I'd like to be added as a co-author.
Thank you.
All righty. Anything else, members?
I'd like to be added as a co-author also.
Absolutely.
All righty. Mr. Emerson as well. This is assuming we're amending it, members. Otherwise, it is as is. Let's call the roll. Oh,
I would just like to say one thing. It's nice to see the second Republican come before the committee today, and if I have the chance, I'd like to co-author that bill.
It's good to be.
Mr. Emerson. Thank you for your careful observation of the process. Okay, call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Aye. Walters, aye. Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Emerson? Aye. Emerson, aye. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
7-0. Mr. Block, AB 684. Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Thank you.
This is due past members also.
Thank you, Madam Chair. AB 684 allows community colleges to switch from at-large elections to trustee area elections if the at-large elections might violate the 2002 California Voting Rights Act. It allows them to do this by petitioning the Board of Governors. Currently, they have to have a special election, which can be very costly. This parallels the community college system to the way it's done in K-12, where a school district can change from at-large to district elections merely by going before the State Board of Education. This bill also does something special for the Grossmont-Cuyamaca College District. They have already voted to change from at-large election to trustee area elections. In Grossmont-Cuyamaca, the district is 25% Latino, but has only elected one Latino out of the last 20 trustees elected. So they fear they are prime target for Voting Rights Act litigation. To avoid expensive litigation, this bill will allow all districts that want to change to from at-large to trustee area to do so by going to the Board of Governors.
Very good. Let's go to your witnesses. Thank you, Mr. Block.
Madam Chair and Committee, Bonnie Slauson, on behalf of the California Community College League. This bill establishes a clear and cost-effective process for community colleges to change their election procedures for the purposes of compliance with the California Voter Rights Act without having to hold a very costly election, and also to avoid legal challenges to their compliance and very costly legal fees for that. The process strikes a proper balance between local control as well as with a third-party oversight from the State Board of Governors. This process is a parallel to the existing K-12 process as explained by the author, Assemblymember Block. We believe that the bill will save millions of dollars.
There you go. Next.
Thank you. Mark McDonald, McCallum Group, on behalf of the Los Rios and Yosemite Community College Districts. One of the bills you'll hear today that is significant savings at the local level. We have at least one district planning on using this process and would appreciate your support.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mike McGee with the Community College Board of Governors. We're in strong support of this measure for the reasons stated before.
Yep. Elaine. Anybody else? Is there testimony against the bill? And finance? You're neutral. All right, we have a motion by Senator Alquist. Any comments? Call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? No. Walters, no. Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, aye. Liu? Aye. Liu, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. Price? Aye. Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
6-1. You have sufficient votes.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Block. Mr. Hueso, you're doing one bill on low-cost automobile insurance, AB 10. Is that right? Are you presenting on all three?
I have all three bills. I can do a very brief presentation on low-cost auto insurance. It has a negligible to no impact. So I would like respectfully request support on this program, which simply allows us to sell auto insurance through an internet website and to sell the insurance from a list of nearby agents. No opposition to the bill. I would hope I could count on your support for that.
Thank you. Testimony, please.
Thank you. Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of Consumer Watchdog. We're sponsors of the bill. We worked hard. There's no opposition. Fiscal impact is minimal, and this simply brings the low-cost auto program into the computer age, allows someone to enroll online, ask for support.
Michael Martinez, Deputy Insurance Commissioner for the Department of Insurance, here in strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Very good. Any other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Finance?
We're neutral, no concerns. We know that there are some costs.
All righty, have a motion. Senator Alquist moves the bill. And seeing no comments, we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Alquist? Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, aye. Liu? Liu, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Steinberg?
6-0. And we'll hold it for Ms. Walters. She's out of the room. Do you want to present on the other two?
Yes, Bill 696 is an infrastructure bank bill that would create criteria that would allow the infrastructure bank to use its loan resources to provide loans to agencies and applicants that provide a nexus between the money and the creation of jobs and smart growth in their communities. There is zero impact to the general fund. The money that the iBank claims that would be needed to create this change in criteria would come from the program budget. They have a budget about $540 million available for loans. The $100,000 that would be used to create this change in criteria can come from the proceeds of the revenue from the loans and also from the fees that they already charged. So we're talking about
Thank you.
Yes.
Self-sustaining. Do you have witnesses in favor? Is there any opposition? Finance, do you have a comment on this?
No file.
This item will go to suspense unless there's objections, and there are no objections. So now, Mr. Wesso will go on to 750.
750 explores the viability of establishing a state bank. It's not the action of building a state bank, if not just having providing information to the legislature in terms of the options the state has to create what is the wholesale opportunity, provide money to already the banks that we have existing in our state. There is a one-time cost of about $150,000. I understand this might have to go to suspense, but will give us the opportunity to do that so we can work with maybe establishing private funds or finding the funds available to fund this initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Wesso. Any testimony for or against the bill? Sir? Tell me which side?
Against.
Against. All right, briefly.
Yeah, this may be a surprise. My name is C.T. Weber. I'm C.T. Weber, Peace and Freedom Party State Chair. For over 40 years, Peace and Freedom Party and its candidates have advocated for a California State Bank. And so when AB 750 was establishing a blue ribbon to study the California State Bank, the State Central Committee endorsed the bill on April the 3rd. However, there's been some changes to the language. One of the changes, originally it said, list the possible objectives of the state bank from individuals and businesses for financial stability, and then it changed that individual and businesses to stability to businesses through investments and other financial provisions. Another change where it was going to list the issues the panel is supposed to consider. They went and again changed that to a strong private sector financial community that will provide capital for businesses in California. So, and there's also some changes about contracting language. So taken all together, it looks like it's funneling through which state funds are channeled into a commercial bank. And so on July 30th, Peace and Freedom Party changed their vote from a support position to a opposition. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Let's see. This is the state bank. Any other testimony for or against? Seeing none. Finance, you have a comment?
No file.
Members, this is candidate for suspense. Without objection, then we're going to move it to suspense.
Thank you.
Mr. Wesso, thank you for coming over.
Thank you very much.
We will see you. Mr. Wesso, we're going to open the roll on the previous item, AB 1024. This was a due pass, members. The chair was aye. Vice chair has not yet voted. We call the absent members.
Walters? Aye. Walters, aye. Runner?
Got another one.
Steinberg?
It's 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Congeniality. Mr. Gordon, the next presenter. You're going to present 703, please.
Yes.
All
happy
right.
to do that. And also 1164.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me start with 703. AB 703 extends the property tax exemption for certain open space lands owned and managed by nonprofit organizations. This extension would be for a 10-year period. Existing California property tax law has provided this exemption for over 40 years. This legislature has approved 5 previous sunset extensions for this provision. The current extension will expire in 2012. If this provision were to expire, it would be highly disruptive to state and local conservation efforts, likely resulting in some organizational insolvency, increased local, state, and management costs, and degradation of our natural resources. Open spaces and parklands are vitally important to the quality of life in communities in California. AB 703 is one way that we can guarantee the protection of those. I would note that earlier today, the members of the State Association of Assessors were here. They did leave given the hour, but they are in support of this measure, and I would respectfully request an aye vote.
Let's go to your witnesses.
Great. Good evening.